Welcome to the Heal Yourself podcast, where we dive deep into all things healing. I'm Denise, a speech language pathologist and a self-love coach for adults and teens.
And I'm Kira, a traditional naturopath and functional nutritionist, and we're here to guide you through the transformative process of healing your body, mind, and soul.
From the latest in functional medicine to nurturing your relationship with yourself, healing trauma, and even transforming your money story, we're here to empower you with the knowledge and tools to create lasting change.
So whether you're looking to heal physically, emotionally, or spiritually, join us as we explore the many paths to wholeness and wellness. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Heal Yourself podcast. Today you have both Denise and I, and we're going to talk about something a little controversial, maybe, and that's religious trauma.
Oh my goodness, yeah. It could be controversial and it could be like a regular topic, I guess you're right.
It could be. I'm calling it controversial because we may have people that listen to this and are very religious, and that can be triggering for some. So I want to start with maybe our own story. So for those that don't know, which is probably many of you, Denise and I both grew up in Catholic households. Denise, talk to me a little bit about that. Like, are you still Catholic? Do you still go to church? Like, give me some backstory.
Yes, I will. I didn't just grow up in a Catholic household. I also went to Catholic school all my life. It was all girls Catholic school. I grew up in Lebanon. It's the same school from kindergarten to high school. So yes, you do go to mass, confession every week, plus whatever. And also, I just want to kind of like mention that too. Growing up in Lebanon, I grew up during the war because I was born in 1979 and I didn't leave the country until 96. So when I grew up, we also had religious separation, meaning I only grew up and I was raised in the environment in the area where only Catholics and Christians were, right? I didn't go to the other side, right? Because especially during the war, people crossing, like there were some kidnapping and things like that. So I was very sheltered, right? So I didn't just grow up in a Catholic household and a Catholic school, but was also a Catholic or you want to say Christian community because there were other denominations as well. And do I still consider myself Catholic? Yes, I do. Do I go to church? I go to these small, because every Catholic church, I mean, I don't know if every, but a lot of the ones that I go to, they have a small chapel. And that is my meditation center. So right now, I do go to the small chapel a lot more than I go to mass. I do go to mass when I feel called for it. So I don't go to mass anymore because of guilt. I go to mass because I want to. And this shift happened, and I'm going to be very transparent, and you and I talked about it. This shift happened during COVID because I did notice the Catholic Church doing things or sticking by things that I'm like, excuse me, what? Things that I don't agree with. And that was separated me from the institution, but not from the teachings that I love.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I tell people right now. I do Catholicism my way.
And
how about you?
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny because I grew up in a Catholic church. My story is different. I mean, so my husband was like you, right? He went to Catholic school his whole life. For me, it was more my parents grew up, I think they grew up Catholic. I know my mom did. I don't know the whole backstory, but I know that when I was like 7 or 8, we started going to Catholic church. And so we started doing that, and I went through the whole thing, right? You go through communion, and you go through, I don't even remember everything. You learn about confession. You do all of these things, right? But yeah, it was actually before COVID that I started kind of questioning things. And it's not that I'm opposed to the Catholic faith. It's not that I'm opposed to religion, but I think that what it does to people. So you said something that's so powerful, and that's you go because you choose to. And the thing is growing up in something, there's not necessarily choice. You think it's choice, But as a kid, you're indoctrinated, right? And I
Yes,
don't say that word in a bad way. That's life, right? We're indoctrinated by so many different things. But it's like you hear something over and over from parents, from the priest, from the minister, from whoever, and you start to think this is the only way.
absolutely.
And then you think, well, anything else is bad. And it's not even your thinking anymore. It's someone else's.
You're so right because I honestly used to think like, oh my goodness. I was like, oh my goodness, like I have, the body of Christ and then the confession and then I have the prayer and I can go to church. But what about people who don't? What's going to happen to them? And
Yeah.
I used to think these things until I was like, wait a minute, my religion is not the only religion that is, because there's so many religion. Because yeah, I used to think that Catholicism is it. But I'm like, no. And once I got more into spirituality, and I noticed other religions' teachings are kind of the same thing, right? Love, peace, kindness, whether it's Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, whatever, right? Now, in every religion, you have the extremists, and in
Hmm.
every religion, you have the people who don't, they do their own thing. But I felt like religion, it's kind of like it imposes a lot of rules
Yeah.
that sometimes as a person you're like, well, I don't really agree with you on that, but then you feel bad and things. So that's why I love spirituality more because it is the same. I mean, because if you're going to look at Catholicism, I mean, Jesus's teachings are, kindness, love, forgiveness, and it's the same thing as what Buddha talks about, right?
Yeah.
So, or Lao Tzu, or like so many other prophets, disciples, Saint Francis of Assisi, Mother Teresa. So the thing is, it's like that's why right now I connect more with spirituality because also I do now understand and have faith and know that I am a spiritual being having this, uh, you know, human body experience, you call it. However, also, I think it's just like the rules, like any human beings, like whenever you have so much many rules imposed on you, automatically you're gonna rebel,
Yeah.
right? And that's why spirituality connected with me because you just feel free because this is who you are. You are a free spirit.
Yeah.
You're a free soul. You're free to think however you want to think. You're free to go to church if you want to. You're free to go to nature if you want to, right? Like sitting in nature and meditation is the same as going to church,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well, and that's the thing. I know every religion has its own set of beliefs, but I also think there's a lot of right and wrong. And now, granted, right? Like we could say, like murdering someone, committing adultery, like some of those things, yeah, that's probably wrong, right? But the church, especially the Catholic Church, and maybe other churches, again, I don't have much to compare
Or
this to.
Christian churches. I mean, like
Yes.
there are some Christian churches that are pretty intense on
Yes.
like some of the teachers. I'm like, really? Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Well, and that's what I was going to
Like you're
say. It's
gonna
like
basically go to hell. You're doomed. You're done if you commit
that's what I was
adultery.
going to say. Like there
But
was,
that's against what Jesus taught,
yes.
type of thing. You know what I mean? If you're gonna go through it, because when Jesus came, he did talk to the woman who committed adultery. He sat with the thieves and the prisoners.
Yeah. It's all fear-based, and that was my issue with it is it was creating so much fear in my life of, oh my gosh, if I say this, am I going to hell, or wait, am I sitting in purgatory longer? And that's what I was going to say. Like I grew up hearing, okay, maybe you won't go to hell if you don't do these terrible things, but anytime you use a swear word, anytime you go against your parents, anytime you do this, do that, you worship money, like so many different things, you're going to spend longer in purgatory. And so basically, everything was fear. Like I was so scared of doing things wrong. Talk about putting my nervous system in overdrive.
Hmm.
And that lasts for decades, right? Then you get older and you realize you have now stories around sexuality, especially money. Like
Hmm.
there's so many stories. I'm curious, have you discovered any stories for you in particular, just around religion that were not serving you?
Oh yeah, that's why. I mean, a lot of them. Like I would feel. like people who are not from the same religion or they
Mm.
don't believe what I believe, I felt like, oh my God, I felt bad for them. Like, oh my goodness, they're gonna go to hell. They don't have any, um, and then I would wonder like, uh, the story is more of like, it was more of guilt. Like if I don't
Mm.
go to mass like this Sunday, okay, my
Oh,
goodness,
yes, that's
I
another
have to
day in
go, you
purgatory.
have to go to mass. That's another purgatory, and then it's an obligation or a
And then you
non-obligation.
have
And
to go
what
to confession to
you
confess
have to go to
that.
confession, and I'm like, I don't want to go to confession. And then, so yeah, like it's, and when you were talking, you kind of were saying about like the whole, all of these rules, right? Like you do this, if you don't do this, you go to hell. If you don't do this, you get purgatory. And all of this stuff is like negative, right? Hell and purgatory are negative. I don't see anything positive and
Hmm.
anything fun about purgatory. Who wants to go there? However, but then those religious teachings are contradicting the people who came and the religion stemmed out of them, right? So, for example, if we're going to go to Christianity, and then Jesus is all, he talks about all loving and God, God is all loving and forgiving. So if it is all loving and unconditional love, then how is it that I'm going to go to
I
purgatory?
know.
So these are the things that started not making sense to me. And I'm like, and then I started reading, during COVID, I started reading a lot. And then I started reading The Dying to Be Me. And I was like,
Hmm.
it's unconditional love and there's no judgment. So, like, wait a minute. Purgatory, hell, and heaven are right here on earth. There isn't an outside place. Like,
Yeah.
now. It is the now. Because I thought like purgatory, because I'm a big yes, I still do have a lot of my Catholic um faith because I really love Padre Pio, Saint Pio. It's just like I feel he's my guardian angel. And he talked a lot about purgatory, souls in the purgatory, souls in the purgatory. And I thought about it like, God is all loving, ultimate intelligence is all unconditional love. So the purgatory that Padre Pio always talked about and the soul's suffering, I believe he was referring to the ones to earth. You know what I mean? Because once you're a soul, you're a spirit, there's no suffering. Does that make sense? Suffering
Hmm.
is here in a condition in on the planet Earth. I feel like I don't know what are you like I'm going so deep in it. I don't know why. What are your thoughts? What's jumping at you?
Um, so many things. That's the thing. It's like there's so much I could say about religious trauma. And again, I want to go back to like, I'm not bashing it. There's so much in the Catholic faith that I do agree with. And there's so much with religion, like even just the sense of community. But I feel like it takes away, we've done episodes about personal power. I feel like it takes away personal power. And I feel like it causes you to lose trust in yourself because you're very heavily relying on someone else to tell you what's right, what's wrong. And there's so much interpretation too. And that was my issue of going through the Bible and going like I have an English degree, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, like every time I read a different version, like even just a couple lines can mean something entirely different. And it made me realize like, gosh, there's so much open to interpretation, right? And then we've got
Yeah.
to talk about there's books left out in the Bible. And well, wait a minute, why is somebody telling me then that I have to strictly follow the Bible? And I'm like, but what if I'm interpreting it another way? Like, am I going to hell because I'm not reading it wrong?
Well, a lot of people are interpreting it
Yeah,
another way, and that's
probably.
why you have a lot of churches being formed or
Hmm.
different, denominations or different, out of that because it gets interpreted wrong because I mean, or interpreted differently because one, we're different human beings, and then you and I can read the same thing and then have different perceptions, different interpretation because of different experiences. So that's why I feel like with me, stepping away from the religion, but being more
Hmm.
spiritual and then keeping whatever I love from my religion, whatever I grew up, some of the traditions makes me more open.
Yeah.
Like you're not condemning other people. Like, like, I mean, because they're not right or wrong, either. They're following what they were taught as well
Hmm.
too. But it's just like being open. And when you were saying about the giving your power away, I love what you said, because also when you do that, you're also losing authenticity.
Yeah.
You're stepping away from your soul, from your calling. And I feel that it's really important to just know that we have the answers. I feel, yes, you're right. Like, whenever, oh, let me, and then there's nothing wrong. Yes, we read the Bible, we pray and we meditate, but all of those is to listen to our own intuition. And I feel
Yeah.
this is what being spirit is to really listen and let that shine through.
Yeah. I agree. So that actually makes me think of a couple questions we can really be asking ourselves, because this is where I had to go back to. I mean, even thinking through the other religions, like I'm just going to use this as an example before I give my questions. I posted something a couple years ago about yoga, and I'm not even a yoga person. Like Ted does yoga. I'm not a huge yoga. Like give me some stretching, but I get antsy. But a bunch of Christians commented back on social media like, you can't do yoga. That's evil. That's based in Hinduism. And I'm like, but wait a minute. So everyone that's Hindu is now evil? Like that didn't make sense. And that's really where I started questioning more of like, okay, what do I believe? So here's your first question. What do I actually believe? And why do I believe that? Is it because my parents told me that when I was 6 years old? Is it because a priest told me that? Is it because that's how I interpreted something I read in the Bible, the Quran, the whatever? And then what values resonate with me beyond those religious teachings, right? And I said that kind of in the beginning of like, don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, don't murder people. Like, I feel like there's a core sense of values most of us would adopt. But outside of the, well, if I tell this little white lie, or if I do this little thing over here, am I going to hell again? And I think those are big questions to start to explore, because that's going to allow you to see too, like, who am I? Where do I need to work on my healing? Because religious trauma is a big thing, guys.
And there's nothing wrong. I understand that maybe someone listening right now and they can be very religious. And that
Mhm.
was me, in when I was in my 30s and before the whole idea of spirituality opened up, I was I mean, I would even guilt the kids like, oh my goodness, Jesus does so much for us. We're not gonna go on Sunday, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So it's just it's really, really, really important to, I don't know where I was going with this. See, when I don't write things down. But anyway, it is really important to just ask yourselves those questions. And yeah, I know. Because sometimes, like, oh, it's not good to question. Oh my
Yes,
goodness, it's a
that's,
sin to question. It
oh my
isn't.
gosh, girl, I
If
got in
it
a
is a
spiral
sin
with
to
that.
question, if think about it this way, right? If it is a sin to question, then why do you have this ability?
Hmm.
That's how I think about it. Like our body is perfect the way it is. Our mind is perfect the way it is. You know what I mean? Like these things, the ability to question and to wonder and to
Hmm.
be curious, those are all part of human nature. They're not sins. And
Yeah.
that's what I sometimes, kind of maybe activates me a little bit when I see the religious groups that are really extremists about like, and then Jesus is gonna come again and he's gonna judge
Hmm.
everybody, and then we're gonna like, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
I was totally in that spiral, girl, because when I started questioning things, then it was like, oh my gosh, am I going to hell for questioning this? And then I had to remind myself, if I question and come back to an empowered place of, yes, this is fully what I believe, then fabulous. But that's the thing for me is like, where can I work from a sense of empowerment versus fear? And I even questioned that. That threw me into a spiral too of like, well, am I supposed to feel empowered? Or maybe I'm supposed to live my life in fear. And I don't think that's it. Like, that's not my truth anymore. And it
yeah,
was for a long time.
yes. And right, so if you're listening and you're very religious and you're like, oh my goodness, Kira and Denise, what are you doing? I could never, yeah, like you guys are crazy.
We know.
Maybe we do know that. However, I recommend, because like I said, I was like that, right? And I recommend that you always keep your mind
Mhm.
open. That's what God wants for you anyway, right? Ultimate intelligence, ultimate consciousness wants us to be open, to always connect with ourselves and take the teachings also. And like, for example, I really love this teaching because there are some teachings in the Bible that like you can take and be like, oh yeah, that it makes sense, you know. Because I was the other day, I don't know if it was a podcast I was listening to or I saw it in one of the books, but it was the yes that may, because a lot of the spiritual books, they give examples of
Hmm.
Jesus and Mary and Buddha and Saint Francis, like a
Yep.
lot. Like Wayne
Yep.
Dyer refers to Saint Francis de Assisi all the time, refers Jesus all the time, and Buddha and all, like a lot of, and Lao Tzu,
Hmm.
right? So like the yes, the yes that Mary gave, that is ultimate surrender. That is a big example of us to surrender. What is surrender? Saying yes and not resisting opportunities and
Yeah.
learning from them, right? So that's where it's important to just kind of like, if there's a teaching that you like, it's okay, but also be open-minded about learning more and being open to other people's beliefs and not condemn them and be like, oh, they're gonna burn in hell because they
Yep.
don't believe in this and this. Same thing with them too, you know, because I don't know much about many religions, but like I said, I did grow up in a country where on the other side there were Muslims, and I heard it a lot that they, you know, a lot of Muslims, and again, if you're listening and I got it wrong, you know, forgive me. However, you know, yes, they do call other people of other religions sinners, right? Same with Christians, you know,
Hmm.
they do call people of other religions sinners, but that's not necessarily true because they're following what they grew
Yeah.
up with, right? So why am I going to call this Muslim person a sinner because they don't believe in what I believe in, but they follow their own teachings and they have their own values. At the end of the day, if you follow the simple, like you said, the core values, being kind, being respectful, loving,
Don't kill people.
don't kill people, yeah, don't do that. And it's not just the killing, also like controlling and
I
things.
know.
That's the
I
thing
know.
that people don't forget. Like, you know, people who follow religions like so, and you cannot deviate. It's kind of like, you know, military family. Like, you
Yeah.
cannot deviate. Ooh, this is more control than
Well,
allowing the other person to be.
and actually, I'm going to say something here. This is something my husband and I have commented on a lot. So forgive me if you're religious and go to church every week. But for us, for years, we would go not just because of fear, but we felt like we had to, right? It was the motion. We weren't going because we wanted to be there. We weren't going because we felt like it was going to make our day better or we were going to become better people. We were going because we felt like we had to. And unfortunately, I see this a lot in so many people of I go to church every single week, I read my Bible, I pray every day, but let me tell you, I'm an asshole out in the world. Like that's what I see is people that are rude, they spew hate, they say they can judge because that's how they interpret it in the Bible. Like there's so much and I'm like, "Well, how is that like following and even if you don't believe in Jesus that's fine but how is that following something good like that doesn't make sense to me you can go to a place with other people and listen to someone and just because you did that you're saved but people that maybe really try to be good people out in the world they're not just because they didn't show up to this one place.
Right, and if we're gonna go back to spirituality and we all are connected, we're all one, right? I mean, we
Mhm.
all are because we all come from the same place, right? I mean, what
Yeah.
happens when your body decomposes, man? You're made of whatever that body. I mean,
Yeah.
you know. So it just it's mind-boggling sometimes how, like you said, yes, you know, yeah, I read the Bible, I go to church, I do the whatever, but then I go around and say all these other people are sinners because they don't
Hmm.
believe what I believe. Well, you just contradicted
Yeah, I
the
agree.
ultimate teachings of the because any religion that you're gonna look at their teachings, their core teachings are the same core values of life: kindness, forgiveness, unconditional love, etc., etc. And how is that? And then you're forgetting that we are connected with these people. If you and I are one, whether you're, whether you're Jewish or whether you're Christian or you're Muslim or you're Buddhist, I mean, and I'm sure there are many religions that you and I probably don't
Yes.
know. I have no idea because the world is huge. Like if we all come from that same place, right? If we all are coming and because if we all decompose the same, that means we are same one. And that separation is the illusion and it is what's separating us. We are one. So whatever you believe in, it is what it is, whatever floats your boat.
Yep.
As long as you are a kind person, I don't care if you are whatever religion you are. If you're an asshole, I don't care.
Yeah.
But that doesn't represent your religion, though. And
Yep.
that's another thing that we need to differentiate. Not all priests are, bad. Not all ministers are bad.
No.
Not all rabbis are bad. Not all the same thing. Like, one thing someone does in a profession, or all cops are horrible, or all teachers are whatever.
No. And the other thing I'm going to throw in on that too is just it's not even that all are. There's a lot of misconceptions. People will say, like, well, Catholicism is rooted in evil and look how much money they take. And they're hiding, like, girl, I've heard it all. They're hiding children in the basement. Like, until you know for sure about a religion and anything, like, this could go in so many different directions besides religion, but until you know for sure because you've seen it with your own eyes, don't make assumptions.
Oh yeah, exactly. Don't make assumptions at all. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just like any story. And that's what sometimes like Avery tells me, like someone says this and this. Oh, did you hear it? Did you see it with your own eyes? If
Hmm.
I didn't hear it, I didn't see it, then someone is giving me this information. They're giving me this information. Maybe
And
it's not
And that's where religion went
accurate.
for me. It's like, okay, if me not going to Catholic church, because that's what I was told all my life was like the thing I had to do, right? If me not going is going to result in me going to hell, I need somebody to come tell me that. Like, I need to full on read it in the Bible and see, like, hey, this is the only word available, or I need Jesus to come out of the sky. Like, I need to see it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because otherwise, it is all interpretation.
It is. It is all interpretation. And it's okay to, and that's the thing. It really is okay to, because right now there may be somebody listening and they're afraid to even be open.
Question.
They're
Yeah.
afraid to question or they're afraid to start thinking about it.
Hmm.
For that, I would say, don't be afraid.
Yeah. Because you can go back to that same belief. It's
Exactly.
fine. It might make you
Yeah.
stronger. Like, Denise and I are not saying religion is bad. But what we're saying is the idea of religious trauma is very real because we have adopted so many beliefs of others. And it goes back to what Denise said. We're not being authentic. If you have those beliefs and go through those questions and those beliefs are still yours and you still believe them as your truth, then fabulous. But if not, then maybe there's some digging to do.
Yes, and I want to add something when you said, yes, no, religion is not bad. However, if you're staying, let's say, if you're staying in an abusive relationship because you
Mm,
took vows and because of the religion, you're not doing anybody a favor.
yeah.
You're
You're
not
not
even
even
doing
living your
God a
life.
favor. You're not living your life, right? So that's where also the same thing, realizing, yes, I appreciate those teachings in the religion, but some of the things may not apply to me. You know what I mean? Because there are, many people who stay in relationships, whether men or women, it doesn't matter, and that they're going through any type of abuse or any type of dissatisfaction. It doesn't have to be abuse. It can be dissatisfaction. You're like, well, I can't leave this relationship because I will
Hmm.
break my vows and I'll be a sinner. But then who are you being if you're choosing to be miserable all of your life and to live for somebody else? I'm sorry, that is not the teachings of any religion. That,
Amen. Can I say amen?
right?
Yeah.
So it is important to just like realize and be like, this doesn't apply for me. It
Hmm.
doesn't work for me. This used to work for me, and that's okay because also you're not the same person, man.
Yeah.
You're not the same person. You know what? Trust me. And my mother, oh my goodness gracious. My mother literally to this day, I'm 45 years old. I'm going to be 46 next month, Kira. You know that.
Yeah.
And my mother to this day, every single chance, and it could be at least once a week, two times a week. I'm not going to go to church. Oh my, and a whole, like the whole thing. So
Mm-hmm.
what am I doing on the other end of the line? I'm just like, yep, you're right. Sure. Yeah, and I'm being very kind. I'm listening, but I'm still doing, my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I want to mention, my daughter's growing up here in this country, and a lot of her friends go to the Christian churches, like Cornerstone and all the non-denominational, I feel. And I taught her, I teach, and I do let her. I do allow her to
Mm-hmm.
explore both. And we do talk about, like, sometimes we can go to mass or whatever, but I don't force her. And, sometimes I tell her, yeah, if you ever want to go to mass with me, you let me know and we can do it, but just if you want to. And she goes with her friends a lot of the times. And the other day, just by herself, I didn't even say anything or whatever. And then I was like, but my mother knows that she goes to the other, and she's constantly talking to me and nagging, like, why'd you let her? Why'd you do that? Force her not to go. It's kind of like a lot of
Yeah.
forcing. So Avery came just by herself a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, Mommy, maybe we can go to Mass next
No.
Sunday. And then her and I did go last week. My mom and grandma were there. I didn't tell them the day before, but I went and they were there. And oh my goodness, my mom was so happy. And she was like, "Oh, it's because I have been praying for her to come to this church."
Yes, that was
And
it.
and I didn't argue, of course. She smiled, she's happy, and I'm at this point where I don't argue. I believe what I
Mm-hmm.
believe or whatever. But even to this day, and I continue doing my own thing, and I know I'm an adult and I've done a lot of work, I still get the backlash from my family.
Yeah.
But because I can't change them, I just choose to uh accept and just be like, it is what it is.
Yeah. I get that.
So yeah. What are the
Okay.
takeaways? Oh my goodness.
I mean, I think the takeaways are just to question. I mean, that's what we're always saying is question things, but have an
Yeah.
open mind. If you feel like religious trauma has impacted your well-being in some way, shape, or form, then s- question, like we said, and go through that. And then if that's the case, then you've got some healing to do. And if it's not the case and you get back to the place where it's like, no, my religion is totally serving me, then fabulous. Then that's
Yeah.
also great.
Yeah, like exactly. Question, journal, but always know that you have all the answers. Remember, you have the divine in you. You were created in the image of God, hence God is within us. God is not above, and that's what we talked about at the workshop.
Hmm.
Like God is within. Your intelligence is within. So rely and trust that more. Yes, read the word, read the scriptures, read whatever you're reading. I'm sorry, like I feel like you and I can only refer to religious terms of Christianity and
That's because
Catholicism because
it's
we
what
know
we
it.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. I know that what the books are called in other religion, but I don't want to like, pretend that I do know. So whatever your religion is, just, explore spirituality. Be open to it.
Yeah.
Because you're spirit at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's the takeaway is just ask those questions, write them down, be okay with them, be okay with asking those questions and accepting that. I don't know.
Be
I just
okay
because
with wherever you land.
wherever you land, yeah, because the status quo sometimes is very stagnant,
Yeah.
and it's you at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like I always say, it is you, it is you, it is you, it is you. Please trust in yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And go back to your beliefs and sorting through all of the noise and the beliefs that were not yours. They were someone else's.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, on this note, guys, give us a like, a share, a comment on Instagram, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple. Do anything. We'd love to hear from you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode.